Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 7 of AMC's Mayfair, which is entitled Tessa. The episode title is pretty obvious here. This episode's A-plot focused on finding Tessa, who we saw get kidnapped at the end of Episode 6 last week. Not really much to discuss there. So this episode wasn't nearly as bad as the previous two, but I mean, it wasn't good either. And I don't take any joy in coming in here and shitting on this show with you guys. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of stuff out in January and February. There's not a lot of content being viewed. This show gets views for me, so fuck it. I can come on here and shit on this show for 20 minutes, but that's not my plan. And while this episode wasn't good, just like all the rest of them, there was a little bit that I did like this week, surprisingly so. But as usual, there are brand new irritating things that happened as well. So I'll start with some of the positive stuff, though. So this episode opens by reminding us that Sip is still stuck in this dream that we saw him in at the end of the last episode. I think dream might not be the best terminology. I think it was like a memory, that's right. So we end up learning that this was in fact not a memory of Suzanne's, as I think we all assumed. It was actually a memory of Lasher's, and Sip is trapped, and Lasher had manipulated this whole thing. And I thought that was actually a pretty cool and surprising reveal, because I did assume that they were in Suzanne's memory. And that's a smart play by the show too, because due to the Suzanne flashbacks that we've seen at the beginning of every episode, we see Suzanne as a focal point, like a primary character. So when Sip goes back to a pivotal moment in Suzanne's life, of course we're going to naturally assume this is a Suzanne memory. So well done by them for successfully fooling me, and I think all of us with this whole memory that Sip was in. It was a nice little trick, which is unlike Lasher to pull off a nice little trick. But I like the idea too that he's been laying traps this whole time. Like, this suggests that he's several steps ahead of both Sip and Rowan. Like, I like that he set up Sip to get stuck in that memory, and I like that it appears he also seems to have set up Rowan to get impregnated by Sip. And I'm real curious to learn why he would do that. I don't have much faith in the show that they're going to give me that answer, but a better show would. Unfortunately, though, that's where my compliments end. Pretty much everything else we saw either didn't make sense as usual or was dumb as usual. So after the opening scene with Sip, we see Rowan like randomly taking a leisure stroll, and I thought that was a weird way to open the episode. Like, I'm like, did I miss a scene? Like, where is she going? And that's one of those things that like you don't think that would be weird. Excuse me. You don't think that would be weird, but when it feels like you're in the middle of something, because like if someone's walking down the street, generally they're going somewhere. They left from a place and they're going to a place. But like her opening up, walking down the street, we don't have any like information on where she's going or where she left from, because we just started the episode. So I just thought that was a little weird, but that's not a criticism or anything like that. But it's just something I noticed. I was like, this is kind of weird. But she sits down on this bench and she touches her stomach, which is the unimaginative universal sign for a pregnancy. She then uses her power on herself, which, I mean, I don't know that if they haven't really said that Rowan has the ability to like give herself a physical, but I mean, this show they've already proven they don't give a fuck about defining people's power sets, so I shouldn't be surprised there. But like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like 1 minute it's like she's like, okay, we know she can like think, like, you know, like think her way into like bursting a vein or a vessel in somebody's brain, you know, something like that. We know that. But like touching her stomach and I'm going, oh yeah, I think I'm about 4 months. Like, you know, like that wasn't really laid out as her power set. But like I said, they don't care about power sets. And then like when they showed what was going on, like what the fuck was, like, I mean, I guess like it was a fertilized egg that was like rolling around in her. Like what was that? And see, like did they think that whatever they were showing us was easily understood? Because like anytime they show Rowan using her powers, it looks terrible to me. And I don't mean like it's bad quality. It's just like conceptually weird. Like whatever they're trying to convey is super muddy. Like I understand the end result of what she's doing. And I even understand what she is doing. Like she's like telepathically, you know, it's weird for me to even describe because the problem is, what the fuck are you showing me? Like, okay, like I understand based on what happens afterward, what she's doing. But what the fuck are you showing me? And like that always throws me off. And like this time they show her touch her stuff, and then like it's like some nondescript place with like a ball rolling and like little circles. So I'm thinking it's like eggs, like fertilized eggs, but like I don't know. I feel like they keep this like weird kind of like color tones where there's like a lot of pink to show, I guess, the inside of a body. But then they show these like objects or these weird things that like I don't think we're like, how are we supposed to know what that is? And like it's not like I already understood she was pregnant when she touched her belly because that's what they fucking do when you can't, like, when you don't have like fresh ideas. You just take ideas from other places and like okay, so we're reusing touching my stomach. Oh, I must be pregnant. Okay, I get it. So like going into that, I'm like, okay, so I guess what she just did confirmed for her that she was pregnant. But what the fuck did you just show me? I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit of a nitpick because if I understand the end result and I understand why you're showing me that, I don't have to nitpick on what precisely it is. But when you have a show that's so loosey-goosey with like details and shit like that, even the little things feel big. So I understand I'm being super nitpicky and super critical, but at the same time, it's like if it was a tighter show, I'd probably let some shit like that go. But when you have all these different things, it's like constant just like, this doesn't make sense, this isn't defined, this person's doing whatever the fuck, nobody know, like, what the fuck are you showing me on the screen? Like, when everything is messy, even little things are just like, here's another messy fucking thing to throw in the pile. So, like, I understand I'm being harsh, but whatever, who gives a shit? And then just in case after that you didn't understand that she was pregnant, they still make her touch her belly a couple more times, just in case. You like when I see that, I just think, I'm like, how stupid do you think I am? Like, it's so insulting to me. Like, okay, they have her touch her stomach, she does her little fucking trick, and we see like this fucking, like I said, this ball of fertilized eggs rolling around in her uterus. I don't know what the fuck that was. And then she's like touching her stomach again. I'm like, fuck, I get it. She's pregnant. Fuck. Like, you don't have to, like, I'm not a fucking moron. I get it. And like, I don't like shows that treat me like that. I'm like, fuck, I got it. The first time she did it, I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. I didn't need her to touch her stomach 18 more times. Show, Mayfair witches, whoever the fuck decided that. Didn't need it. Anyway, when we last saw Tessa, she was trying to glamour the folks that had Deirdre's heart. This guy Keith, on this whole group of people who hate women. Oops, witches. She called out for Lasher. He didn't show up, so they were able to capture her. And we see her this week. She's trapped in this cage in some warehouse, and she tries to glamour Keith. And I think, and assuming I'm interpreting this right, this is kind of like the opposite of what I just described. The idea of them like hitting us over the head, beating the dead horse with all the clues that she's pregnant. This was a lot less obvious, assuming that I'm correctly understanding what they were trying to convey here, but I think what they were trying to convey was that Tessa was trying to glamour this guy, Keith, verbally. It didn't work verbally. Like, she had him for a second, and he's like, nah, nope. It didn't work verbally, so she had to, like, take her goal down a notch from, like, trying to verbally glamour him into freeing her to just, like, I'm going to verbally glamour him into removing my blindfold. Then I can fully glamour him with mouth and eyes. So, like, that's what I think they were trying to convey there. And if I'm right, I appreciate the fact that they didn't hold our hands in explaining that, as opposed to holding our hands with the pregnancy thing. So I thought that was cool. Not cool, but I appreciated I appreciated being given some intellectual respect. So it almost works, but they're interrupted by someone, and this kind of snaps Keith out of his spell, and they quickly realize they need to hurry up and burn Tessa alive, because what the fuck? And I love this one guy. He's like, nah, man, lighter fluid and fire, that's not gonna work. We need thermite in this bitch. And I'm 0% surprised that a guy who looked like that would not only know that you need thermite, but would also know where to find it. I'm not surprised at all by that turn of events. So now we can tie these two things together and make them like the A plot that is the search for Tessa. So once the show has made sure that we understand that Rowan is pregnant, Rowan calls out to Lasher, which was weird too. Like, she's like, "Hey, you up?" Like, looking around like he's just gonna reply. Of course, he doesn't answer. We know it's got to be Sip's baby, but she wants to ask Lasher about it because presumably she would have been impregnated in that little mirage that Lasher had set up for them in the previous episode, which is why I said, I like the fact that Lasher has been like laying out plans this whole time, and that this whole mirage thing wasn't him just fucking doing his weak ass parlor tricks. It was him, presumably, again, I'm assuming the show hasn't been clear with this, but they have been clear that Rowan, I think, at least considers this, that Lasher set this whole thing up for Sip to be able to impregnate her. Speaking of, I'm only gonna touch on this very briefly. Speaking of Lasher's fucking parlor tricks, when he's in the memory with Sip, he does his fucking teleport thing that I hate. But there's one time he does the teleport thing, and he kind of looks at him like he thought that shit was slick. Like, he teleported like 7 feet away, and he looks back like, yeah, you forgot I could teleport, didn't you, motherfucker? Like, I'm like, you don't stop with this lame ass power. I'm so sick of him teleporting 6 feet away and acting like he did some slick shit. Like, he had the knife on his throat, and it's like, now I'm over here now. Like, that's not impressive. That's just relieving. Like, you had a knife on my throat, now you gone. Like, oh, thank you. Like, I don't know. Whatever, man. Fuck Lasher. Anyway, once Rowan can't get a hold of Lasher by just simply, like, calling out to him out into the open air, she decides to visit Tessa to ask her to call him. Like, I think that's funny, too. Like, this is the terminology. Like, well, she can't get a hold of him. She asks Tessa to call him. It's like Lasher sounded like a deadbeat baby daddy at this point because of what I'm saying. And that's when she discovers that Tessa is missing. And I want to talk about this scene. And when I say this scene, I mean kind of like this entire sequence that happens in this house. Because there's a lot of shit I didn't like in this sequence. It's just like more evidence to add to the pile of unexplained shit that this show is not interested in explaining to us. When she does get to Tessa's house, what's up with the rose petals and the chocolate cake? Like, they made a whole thing of that, like a big show of it. Like, oh, here's like, she's looking at the rose petals, she picks one up, and like I think she tries to like tear it, and it doesn't tear easily. Then she, takes a wipe at the frosting on the cake. And I'm thinking, like, this seems like it's a big deal. Like, they're playing scary music and shit. She's walking up slow. This scary little girl appears behind her. But nothing ever comes of that. And I thought, like, for a minute, I was like, okay, maybe I'm forgetting something, and this is a reference to something that, it's just something I just don't remember. And I know the rose petals, we've seen Lasher kind of like rose petals have appeared with Deirdre from Lasher, I think like twice so far this season. Once when she was a kid and once later. And so I connect rose petals to Lasher. But Deirdre wasn't there, and neither was Lasher. So who the fuck, like, what the fuck was the point of them rose petals, and what the fuck was the point of the chocolate cake? Like, that just seemed like a weird thing. Again, I am now fully like in a mental space where I'm like prepared to shit on this show. So like, there's things that I might be missing just being prepared to say bad stuff. But I really don't feel like I missed anything. If I did, put in the comments, what the fuck was the rose petals and the chocolate cake? Anyway, one thing I did like, this is like the third thing I liked, right? One thing I did like was one of the Mayfair women asked Rowan, and the only reason I liked it is because it's insulting, and it's kind of insulting to the show as well. She's like, why are you even here? Didn't we go to great lengths so you could bail on this family? I'm like, wow, that was a really valid, mean question. I like that. Yeah, it's a valid question, Rowan. I think you should answer it. But she wants to find Lasher to ask about the pregnancy, but of course she can't tell them that for whatever reason. But once the witches decide they do need to find Tessa, they bring in what's called a scry. He's supposed to be able to find people. They say like he's helped like the FBI. He's even helped the Telemasca. He's great. But he can't find Tessa using her mom's blood because they got too many kids. They got too many kids. So he uses Rowan's blood to find Deirdre's heart because of course they're just 1 and 1. And when it's successful, he goes, yeah, the bond was strong. And I just thought that was corny. Like that was like a really corny, like witch-like way of saying, your mama loved you. Like, come on, man. I didn't need that. They didn't even meet. Like, I don't need that. I mean, they kind of met. Rowan met her. Anyway, my absolute favorite part of the episode, though, and you guys have probably picked up. I'm not being sarcastic, but I'm not about to give a compliment either. It's a very much a I'm laughing at you and not with you at this point. But my absolute favorite part of the episode is once Cortland learns that Rowan is pregnant, he tries to stop Rowan from going on the Tessa finding mission. And Rowan is like, no, I need to go. And he's like, no, you have to stay. And he's like grabbing her by the shoulders and shaking her. He's like, you got to stay. And she's, I'm exaggerating, he didn't do all that. But she tickles his ALS or some shit with her mind. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that? Like, I mean, like, you could have done something a little less cruel. Like, we already know she don't respect his ALS because she thinks it's the same as Lasher. But like she like tickles his ALS or some shit and his hand starts shaking. I'm like, oh my God. This is so, like, I was laughing because I'm like, this is not good. Rowan is the first to arrive at Tessa's location, and she texts the group chat because they're like, yo, we got to keep the group chat popping. Let whoever find her hit us all up so we can know and we can all come and do this together. And she texts the group chat to let them know that she's found Tessa. Now, this was a very, I think, pivotal moment for this show. This was a moment where I was fully willing to not forget, but to overlook all of the things this show has done that I've hated, because I felt like this was going to be the moment where they were going to kick me in the balls with something real fucking cool, right? Because they've set it up. They're like, okay, when one of us finds Tessa, hit everybody else up, and we gonna roll up and we gonna save Tessa. So I'm thinking like, okay, this is gonna be cool. Like, they got these women haters, the He-Man Women Haters Club is in here. They got Tessa tied up. Rowan's about to get all the witches in there. They're gonna go there. They're gonna do some real cool witch shit. They're gonna fuck shit up, and it's gonna be a real cool ending to this episode. And I'm gonna get on camera and be like, yo, I've been shitting on this show, but that was a really cool fucking ending. That is what I expected, foolishly. Because what did they do? Instead, Rowan goes in, does her unimpressive magic trick, still manages to get herself shot despite being able to telepathically kill people, still gets herself shot, and gets Tessa shot as well. And none of the other witches show up, and the episode ends with her finally calling out to Lasher using the words or whatever. And I guess we're supposed to understand that now, fed up with her own ineptitude, Rowan has said, I'm going to embrace my powers and who I am, which was totally, like, who gives a fuck? Because that was obvious at the start of the fucking show. And now here we are at the end of the penultimate episode, and they're playing up this whole idea of her accepting her powers and accepting her abilities and accepting Lasher as some sort of big moment. And I'm just like, who's surprised by this? Anybody think this was cool? Like, it's finally happened. Like, no one thought that. No one cared. So I want to close with one thought that it's gonna be kind of the show's, I don't want to say last opportunity, because the show's a failure. And I'm not even I was about to say I'm not trying to be mean, but why am I continuing to qualify it? Y'all know I'm not trying to be mean, but I am being mean. Fuck it, whatever. Like, this isn't the show's last opportunity because it's already proven that all of the things that matter, they don't give a fuck about. How is this show renewed for a second season? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I hated Kindred, but Kindred was 10 times better than this, and they canceled that. But they gonna keep this shit up? Never mind. Because I'm about to start ranting about some shit that ain't even got nothing to do with this, so I'm gonna chill out. But Wasn't it convenient that Sip got stranded in a fake memory, not a fake memory, but a memory created by Lasher, not Suzanne's memory. So it was staged. He got stranded in a fake memory, I keep saying fake memory. He got stranded in a memory that was staged by Lasher, but still conveniently had all of the necessary grocery items to make himself a potion to get out. Now, I'd say they need to explain later that maybe Lasher left those things there on purpose because maybe he wanted Sip to get out, and he's the kind of guy who, like, you know, he likes the game. He likes to play. He wants to keep Sip in play as an option. Maybe he's playing the long game, whatever. I don't trust this show enough to do that. I feel like what we saw is it, and we're just supposed to sit here and accept that even though this was all a mirage and a setup to get Sip stuck in there, that somehow there was a full fucking fridge in this fucking memory and Sip was able to get out. Fuck this show. See you guys next week for this shitty finale, and we'll be done with this. No more Mayfair Witches. I won't be covering season 2. See you guys next week for the last time for this show. Until then, peace.